Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? As we are about to begin, please be settled. First, I would like to seek your cooperation in completing this plenary session. Kindly mute your microphone to avoid background noise and interruption during the presentation time. Second, please note we have 2 interpreters for this session. So please click on interpreter button if you wish to hear the spontaneous translation. Xin phép được nhắc các quý vị đại biểu và các quý thầy cô là chúng tôi có 2 phiên dịch viên trong phiên toàn thể này. Các quý vị có thể click vào nút interpreters nếu muốn nghe dịch tiếp ạ. Okay, let's get started. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to our conference on language teaching and learning in the 4.0 era, opportunities, challenges, and strategies. My name is Ngô Phương Anh. I'm Vice Dean of School of Foreign Languages, Hanoi University of Science and Technology. I will be the MC and moderator of this session. On behalf of our conference organizing board, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of our participants today. To those who are from Australia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, United Kingdom, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Philippines, and China, and to those who are our colleagues from various universities, colleges, and schools in Vietnam. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We hope you will find the program we have lined up for you to be fruitful and engaging. We are delighted to introduce to you our host members. Vice President of Hanoi University of Science and Technology, Associate Professor Huỳnh Đăng Chính. Director of School of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, Plymouth Mahjong University, United Kingdom, Dr. Sarah McAdam. IPE Academic Link Tutor, Plymouth Mahjong University, UK, Dr. Steve Disney. Dean of School of Foreign Languages, Hanoi University of Science and Technology, Dr. Nguyễn Việt Khoa. Vice Deans of School of Foreign Languages, Hanoi University of Science and Technology, Ms. Phạm Hoài Anh. Thank you. To begin the program, we are pleased to have Associate Professor Huỳnh Đăng Chính, Vice President of Hanoi University of Science and Technology, to deliver the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Professor Huỳnh Đăng Chính.
Okay, thank you very much for introducing Mrs. Ngô Phương Anh. Dear Dr. Sarah McAdam, Director of School of Art, Humanity and Social Science from Plymouth Mahjong University from UK. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And today is great honor for me to welcome you to the conference Language Teaching and Learning in the 4.0 era, Opportunities, Challenges, and Strategy Conference. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Recently, development of educational technology and the COVID-19 crisis has shown the necessary for strong innovation in teaching and learning foreign languages. However, such innovation had pointed out emerging challenges on harnessing proper pedagogical tools to foster education efficiency. Therefore, Hanoi University of Science and Technology, together with Plymouth Mahjong University, is proudly to organize this conference to discuss opportunities, challenges, and strategy in language teaching. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Hanoi University of Science and Technology remains to be the leading university in Vietnam. We have made meaningful contribution to research, education, and industrialization of the nation. At our university, School of Foreign Language of Hanoi University of Science and Technology is one of the most creative institutions. Besides the teaching reputation, School of the Foreign Language has contributed to develop a number of successful training programs and research in the field of the foreign language. I am pleased that together with the university, SOFL is an organizer of the conference. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Hanoi University of Science and Technology, I would like to express our sincere thanks to appreciation to Plymouth Marshall University to make this conference possible. I am glad that the distinguished organization has a strong cooperation with School of Foreign Language, especially in the academic field. The joint training collaboration has offered a great number of qualified students to meet the demand of the workforce in many FDI companies in the Vietnamese institution over the year. I am grateful for this collaboration and strongly believe that it will yield more success in the coming year. Your collaboration on organizing this conference future emphasizes our serious commitment to not only our existing program, but also research and pedagogy impact in the field of the language teaching and acquisition. While Plymouth Marshall University is one of the active institutions in the UK, and School of the Foreign Language at our university thrive on rigorous student study, successful teaching, and international collaboration. I'm glad that two institutions offer this timely, interesting, and yet impactful conference. So I would like to thank you both, especially a management board and staff from School of Foreign Language, for your valuable time and the effort to prepare this conference. And last but not least, I would also like to thank all the keynote speakers, researchers, and stakeholders to your meaningful contribution to this conference in particular and to our university in general. I hope you enjoy the conference and have a joyful conversation and discussion with the colleagues. I wish every success conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Huỳnh Đăng Chinh, for those wonderful remarks. It is our pleasure to listen to the opening speech delivered by Dr. Sarah Adam, Director of School of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, Plymouth Marshall University, UK. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Sarah Adam.
Professor Huỳnh Đăng Chinh, Vice President of HUST, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Language Teaching and Learning in the 4.0 era, Opportunities, Challenges and Strategies. My name is Sarah McAdam, and I'm the Director of School for Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences at Plymouth Marshall University. Before we get started, I would like to express my appreciation to all of you who generously helped us make this event become a success. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank SOFL leadership, the conference organising committee, and all our colleagues at SOFL in Hanoi University of Science and Technology for their wonderful work. I would also like to thank participants, speakers, and especially our 3 keynote speakers for joining us and sharing your valuable experience and ideas. On behalf of Plymouth Marshall University, I'm grateful that we were able to win the Hanoi University of Science and Technology as a collaborative partner. Professor Chin, I would like to thank you and your staff for your cooperation. HUST is the ideal host for the event. An internationally renowned university, a place of science, research, education and exchange, including on language education. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at the conference programme, you'll agree that today's conference is going to be very busy and productive. There is a lot to offer for this event. The conference adopts a timely theme, language, learning and teaching in a 4.0 era. 4.0 era technology has penetrated virtually all areas of operations of education and entwined with educational practices. To effectively benefit from technology applications, it is essential that education professionals set themselves ready for transforming their practices and keep identifying effective ways for transformations in their contexts. The COVID-19 pandemic upended the world and especially almost every aspect of education at once. Obviously, we are living in the midst of what is potentially one of the greatest threats of our lifetime to education. According to UNESCO, educational institutions have been closed in 182 countries, and conventional education within universities has been hindered. In addition, more than 90% of the world's student population has been affected by the virus, and the pressure on higher education systems to change their approach to distance learning has been maximised. In response to this threat, all education systems and professionals are trying to act appropriately by finding effective solutions to minimise the adverse effects of the pandemic on the field of education. We all know it's not just the move from classrooms to computer screens. It tests basic ideas about instruction, challenges, testing the role of technology and teaching pedagogy. The major outcomes that we expect from this conference include the sharing of insights into foreign language teaching and learning opportunities, challenges and strategies in the new era, including the integration of technology into foreign language training, innovation in foreign language teaching, and aspects of language use and its interaction with culture. I hope that all of you will enjoy the conference and the exciting and challenging ideas from our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarah Adam. Before we start, we would like to have a photo with all our distinguished guests, keynote speakers, and the participants. May I ask you to turn on your camera and show your faces? Thank you. Okay, I will count from 1 to 3, and the secretary, please take photo. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the second time. 1, 2, 3. One more, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Okay, now we can start our main session today. Before we start, just a gentle reminder about the time. We have 20 minutes for each keynote speaker and 3 keynote speakers today. So if you have any questions, please leave until the end of the 3 presentations. Firstly, I would like to invite our first keynote speaker for this afternoon, Associate Professor Wayne Gerling, Senior Lecturer in Economics, Monash University, Australia, to give a presentation on teaching English to economics to ESL students in the 4.0 era, the use of media in the classroom. Welcome, Professor Wayne Gerling.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. I'll be ready in about 2 seconds here. Okay, so you should be able to see the full screen there, I hope. I'll just minimize this window here. Okay, first of all, let me thank you for the invitation to the conference. I'm so excited about presenting at a foreign conference and also being interpreted or translated simultaneously. Good luck understanding the Australian accent. So let's get underway. So here's my topic here. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Okay. So I work at Monash University in Australia. I spent 6 years working in America. I love large class teaching. I've taught over 30,000 students in a 15-year career. I love active learning in the classroom. I use demonstrations and experiments, and today's topic or presentation is going to be about pop culture in the classroom. So I hope you're as excited as I am. So why do we use media in the classroom? Well, if you look at this image here, we don't want to send our students to sleep. Okay, we want to energize them. We want to engage them. We want them to leave our classroom with more knowledge and a great passion for learning. So in the 21st century, we've begun to go digital with teaching. So what that means is that information is transferred via mobile platforms, not old school platforms like whiteboards or blackboards. And students use multimedia sources all the time anyway. Most of the information they use comes from their phones. Publishers have got in on the game by actually improving multimedia resources now. So it's time to adapt. There's really no excuse in the 21st century not engaging in technology in the classroom because our students use it and the resources are now available. So why do we use pop culture in the classroom? Well, it can make learning easier and more efficient because you can communicate more information. It illustrates concepts so students can visualize what you're talking about. And you can use the pop culture in class or out of class, pre-class or for homework. So there are lots of different ways that you can actually use pop culture in your classroom. So what I'm going to do today is show you some strategies to reduce the cost of using pop culture in your classroom. Okay, so this website, Critical Commons, here's the website if you want to follow up, is a public repository of media generated for the classroom. Thousands of media clips across all disciplines and all have English subtitles. It's protected by fair use, so you won't get sued for copyright violations if you use it in a classroom. You can upload clips, you can download clips, okay? You need to sign up for a free account in order to upload your own material, but you can use this source to get so many wonderful ideas for your classroom. So the 3 media clips I'm going to show you today have all been uploaded to Critical Commons. How do I use pop culture in the classroom? Well, I play music before the class starts. It's a wonderful icebreaker. Play a song so the students have something to watch before the class starts. I like to find a clip that covers a particular topic. Now, I teach economics, so I have 15 or 20 different main concepts that I cover in a particular semester. I like to target a song for a particular concept that I'm about to cover. So it's a beautiful icebreaker in classroom. I like to start up with a warm-up activity as well. So before I play the clip, I want to get the students engaged in what I'm trying to teach them. And I always attach assessment to the activity. Activities are fun, but if you don't follow up with an activity, you're wasting a precious learning moment. So you can find a range of different assessments to actually achieve that purpose. So here's the first warm-up activity. So how many of you have limited data on your mobile phone plans? Now I have 30 gigabyte per month, and it's very rare that I use it, but occasionally I get up right to the limit. So when that happens, I face trade-offs, okay? I've got limited data, so I've got to prioritize the most important activities. So here's an example of a short commercial that involves Ariana Grande, and it should be immediately clear what the trade-off in this clip is.
Sorry, Ariana. You gotta go.
Seriously? Verizon limits me and I gotta get home. You're gonna choose navigation over me?
Maps, get up here.
That way.
Girl, you better get on T-Mobile.
Why pay more for data limits? Introducing T-Mobile One, unlimited.
So in the 5 foundations of economics that I cover in my very first lecture, trade-off is an important economic concept. And opportunity cost comes from that. So when you think of this question here, the driver chose to use GPS. What activity was forsaken as a result? The answer is the ability to listen to music. So Ariana Grande got forced out of the car because the driver needed GPS to get to her location. So it's a great example of tying pop culture into your classroom. Your students will know who Ariana Grande is, and it's a great way to connect the activity with the concept, with the culture. Okay, so that's the first lesson. That would take about 3 minutes to do in classroom. Here's the second lesson that we're going to focus on today. So we've all been in this situation before. We go to see a film, and it's probably a sequel to a film that we've already seen. 15, 20 minutes in, we've realized that the film is terrible. What do you do? Now, in this situation, we assume that you can't get a refund, okay? No refund policy. So what do? I would leave the theatre. I would go home. I would find something else to do. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people think, well, I paid for the movie, I may as well see all of it, okay? That is used to illustrate a really important concept in economics called the sunk cost fallacy. Now, before we talk about that in more detail, I'm going to link this activity with a song from Blackpink. Now, most of the audience will know who Blackpink are, okay? This is an impressive list of credentials. And more importantly, for the purpose of this seminar, 3 of the 4 members speak English fluently. So Blackpink have a really diverse fan base because their songs are predominantly in Korean, but they mix in a lot of English as well. So I'm going to play you this song, which I think most of you would have heard of before, called Kill Your Love, okay? And we're going to relate this back to the sunk cost fallacy when they're finished.
해볼래 해 그 따뜻한 떨림이 새빨간 설렘이 마치 해변가까지만 You might not get in it. Look at me, look at you. 누가 더 아플까? You smile. 누가 you are. 내 눈에 내 눈물 흐르게 된다면 so sorry. 누가 you are. 나 어떡해 나약한 나에 견딜 수 없어. 서로를 가린 채 It's so far with him, I go woo-hoo. He said, you look crazy, thank you, baby, I'll eat onto you. Got me all messed up, his love is my favorite, but you plus me, sadly, can be dangerous. Look at me, look at you, 결국엔 거짓말, we lie. So what, 만약에 내가 널 지우게 된다면 so sorry. I'm not sorry, 나 어떡해.
Thank you, Blackpink. So one important note here is that when you look at that music video, you can see that I have burned in the English subtitles at the bottom, but I've also added economic commentary at the top. So we call this a music for econ video, and there's no reason why you couldn't apply this principle to any discipline. Okay, so if working in a foreign language, first of all, you have to put the English subtitles in, but you can
Và nếu như vậy thì mọi người có thể thấy rằng là cái việc lựa chọn các video clip nó sẽ được mở rộng hơn rất là nhiều. Mọi người hoàn toàn có thể sử dụng những cái video clip không nhất thiết phải là xuất phát từ cái nền văn hóa của các nước nói tiếng Anh, mà hoàn toàn là có các nền văn hóa khác.
So this is a common situation we've all faced. If you've been in a relationship before, at some point, how do you end it? Should you end it? What's the principle that you use in order to decide? And the way economists view the world is that we look at this decision through marginal analysis. So if the marginal cost of the relationship is greater than the marginal benefit, then it is rational to end the relationship. Okay. But we find many situations where people know they should end a relationship, but they don't. Okay. And we call this sunk cost fallacy. What they do in this situation is they often think about, well, I've invested so much time, I've invested so much money, so I think I should stay in a relationship. The basic rule of thumb is make decisions looking forward, not backward. Okay. And that you should be evaluating benefits and costs into the future. So if the costs are greater than the benefits, kill this love and walk away. So we've had two lesson plans. We've had commercial with Ariana Grande, and we've had music with Blackpink. Final activity today is we're going to relate this question here to the most popular sitcom of the last decade, The Big Bang Theory. Okay. And in terms of data, when we work on a computer, the way we save data is much different today to 10, 20, 30 years ago. When I started at university, we used floppy disks. Now people use Google Drive or cloud. Okay, so bear this in mind when we watch this clip. Okay.
As I just take a moment, it's on a 5 1/4 inch floppy.
A floppy disk?
I started the list when I was 9.
How did Will Wheaton get on the list?
Oh, God. As a child, I loved Wesley Crusher, Will Wheaton's character on Star Trek. So I drove for hours by bus to a Star Trek convention at which Will Wheaton was scheduled to appear so that I could get my Wesley Crusher action figure signed. But he never showed because apparently it was cooler for him to be the lower left corner on Hollywood Squares. Oh, damn, the floppy failed. Well, whoever was in charge of quality control at the Verbatim Corporation in 1989, congratulations, you just made the list.
Okay, so that floppy disk that Sheldon used then was the same floppy disk that I used when I was back at university. So let's relate this example or this clip to the lesson plan. So well, you can read the question itself. Technology is a key driver of economic growth. It has allowed us to make things smarter, easier, quicker, okay? We can make things more efficiently, which saves cost. So computer technology has been vital to economic growth in terms of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Think of the theme for this conference. This conference would have been unthinkable 20 or 30 years ago. So it's part of a new industrial revolution. Now relate this back to the clip, okay? That the technology that Sheldon is using is obsolete. He can't update his list of mortal enemies because the floppy disk no longer works, okay? So that's an example of basic using inefficient technology, okay? So we get economic growth by using latest cutting edge technology. You've got to move with the times, otherwise you fall behind, okay? So that's it. I've managed to come in ahead of my 20-minute schedule, which I'm pretty pleased about, to be honest. So I brought the ship back on track. We're right on time at the moment. Thank you very much for allowing me to present today at the conference. I'm going to hang around and I'll be back for the discussion when the other plenary speakers have finished. But thank you in advance for the invitation today.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Wayne Garling. Thank you for your very interesting presentation. It's our pleasure to welcome Dr. Bakar Khan Samarfet, lecturer in applied linguistics Konkan University from Thailand with the presentation entitled, What Should ELT Teachers Know About English Medium Instruction Pedagogy? Please welcome. Yeah.
Nấu cơm à?
Please welcome Dr. Bak Chakan Samafed.
Hello. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, all participants. Thank you, Hanoi University of Science and Technology, very much for inviting me to give a talk on what should EFL teachers know about EMI pedagogy. Today's talk, first, I will inform you a popular definition of EMI as a working definition throughout my talk and perceived benefits of EMI. Second, I will go over challenges to the use of EMI, both language and pedagogy. Third, I will share possible solutions to the current challenges deriving from actual practices from my research field. Fourth, I will share 3 models of EMI teacher professional development and roles of EFL teachers in EMI teacher professional development. And finally, there will be Q&A section at the end, okay? All right, what I mean by EMI. EMI is the use of the English language to teach academic subjects and other than English itself in countries and jurisdictions where the first language or L1 of the population, of the majority of the population is not English. And, you know, many countries are now using definitions across their practice and research activities. Many universities are doing EMI due to internationalization higher education institutions. EMI is perceived to have such benefits as improving students' English skills, increasing university ranking, and income. To make it clearer, I have a scenario for you to think about what EMI is and the importance of EMI. And as EMI teachers, how are you going to get involved with it? Okay, let's have a look at this scenario together. EMI is a growing global phenomenon due to socio-political economic changes. Suppose your university aims to heighten its international profile and university rankings to compete on local and global scales. As a mechanism for achieving such aims, as EMI has been widely deployed in content classrooms with students whose first language is not English. And it is found that the students seem to have language barriers in learning academic concepts in English. Content teachers whose L1 is not English as well have expressed the need for pedagogy to support teaching and learning practices in classrooms. The questions to be raised are, firstly, whose job is it to respond to this agenda? Secondly, what is EMI pedagogy to overcome challenges in language barriers? Thirdly, what are the roles of EFL teachers in EMI programs? Well, I hope you can find out possible answers to respond to these questions throughout my talk. EMI not only has perceived benefits, but also has challenges, okay? The students encounter English language challenges when they recognize the gap between their current English skills and the English requirements in their EMI subjects. For, let's say, perceptive skills, the students lacked suitable listening skills to understand academic lectures. Moreover, they found themselves confronted by massive unfamiliar vocabulary items to comprehend textbooks. What about productive skills? With productive skills, the students encountered numerous difficulties while composing essays in suitable academic conventions. It was uneasy to deliver oral presentations, to interact in seminar classroom discussions as well. Students with inadequate English skills face more language problems than their classmates, especially when interacting in class, working in groups, understanding content, reading input materials, and writing assignments. The students with higher proficiency revealed that it was still uneasy to comprehend, to gain full comprehension of EMI lectures. Academic content knowledge is a cognitively demanding discipline, though, that not only involves English to access academic discourse, but also requires cognitive skills and processes to develop conceptual understanding of complicated content. Let's move on to pedagogical challenges. There is very little clear guideline on how to practice EMI in classrooms. In other words, EMI pays little attention to pedagogy to support teaching and learning. This causes critical concerns about pedagogical challenges to the real classroom across the globe. There is a false assumption, though, that teachers who earn their highest academic degrees from recognized institutions can use English to teach academic content. Although teachers have a good command in English and expertise in specific discipline knowledge, it has been argued that not all teachers can teach EMI effectively. Without appropriate EMI pedagogy provided, EMI teachers revealed that it was challenging to deliver complicated abstract concepts to their students to understand. Some studies like those of Vu and Burns, Nguyen, and others found that Vietnamese teachers were concerned that their insufficient English would negatively impact the students' English acquisition and hinder content comprehension. Giving a presentation on new content in English was a challenging teaching routine for Vietnamese teachers. First, it is common to see teachers eliminated or cut down some complicated abstract concepts and worked on low cognitive content instead. As we have discussed language-related and pedagogical challenges, I would like to propose possible to such challenges which were derived from my EMI research in a Thai university setting. EMI in my research study offered teachers a wide range of English utilization during the delivery subject matter. English linguistic gears as an in-house innovation were created to form about language resources used to convey instructional meanings and how these gears are used by teachers in classroom interaction. Based on policy requirements, there are 3 gears of English immersion levels. Okay, gear 1 here requires that English classes must be used during at least 25% of the class time throughout the semester. Gear 2 involved English use for 15%. And gear 3, okay, here is gear 3, require that English must be used during at least 75%. Gears also display the conceptual understanding of L1 levels that can occur in EMI classrooms. Year 1, 2, and 3, which allowed the use of L1 in EMI classrooms, signify the acceptance of multilingual practice in order to negotiate meaning, co-construct knowledge, and perform language output. There was no exception that the teachers can use English for 100%. From the teachers' responses, they felt comfortable to use English at the lowest gear. Hence, gears seem to align with linguistic abilities and effective factors. Due to language barrier in teaching and learning EMI teachers use their available linguistic resources, which are English and their L1, to overcome challenges in presenting new knowledge, bridging the gap between students' prior and new knowledge, checking students' understanding of new knowledge, and repairing students' misunderstanding. So, from what I found in my research study about language practices in EMI classrooms, I would like to propose EMI teaching model, which may help address the current language and pedagogical challenges. While you are looking at this model, I would like you to consider which stages and or components you as an EFL teacher can take part in, okay? This is a 5-stage model comprised of content, input text, intake, negotiation, co-construction, and output text. To begin with input text, the teachers present English input academic content in short and long lecture modes by using multimodal tools such as PowerPoint presentations, academic articles, and documentaries. These input materials may contain academic English. At this stage, L1 can be used to ensure that the key concepts are fully transferred and received. The second stage is here, intake, where the students try to make sense of academic input text. Indeed, they deploy their available language resources to understand the content. What about here? The third stage is negotiation, when the teachers assist the students in making more sense of academic content through negotiation, meaning among themselves using everyday and or academic L1, and then everyday and or academic English, and vice versa, okay? It is expected that a full understanding of input text can be collaboratively made. And the fourth stage here is co-construction. The teachers facilitated the students' knowledge construction in order to produce academic text to show their understanding of academic text. Similarly, teachers encourage the students to use academic L1 to perform deep concept first, followed by everyday and or academic English. Again, multimodal tools such as dictionaries could be used to form written English words and sentences. And finally here, the final stage is output text. The teachers check students' understanding through the production of spoken and or written forms. If the input text is in English, then the output text can be in L1 and vice versa. So that by working in both languages, the student can more precisely express their understanding of academic content. All right. When knowing how to teach EMI by using gears, English in 4 main areas of instruction, and EMI teaching model as solution to EMI challenges, I would like to propose 3 models of EMI teacher professional development in collaboration with EFL teachers to foster collaborative learning among colleagues in EMI environment. The first model here focuses on co-teaching, that is preparing teachers and content teachers together in planning lessons and teaching. EFL teachers help content teachers in planning what gears can be used based on English skills of teachers and students. And EFL teacher can introduce the use of English in 4 main areas of instruction to content teachers. For example, the use of expression in presenting new knowledge. In class, English teachers can introduce key lexical and grammatical items necessary for EMI students to understand content better. The keyword is to understand content better, and appropriate language to deliver their output. Okay. And what about here? The second model is one-on-one activity. Lessons should be observed and recorded. Or after lesson discussion, the content teachers can sit with English teachers to analyze video recorded extracts for academic classes with emphasis on language-related issues and pedagogy to find their effective practices. And here we have the third model is whole workshop, okay, whole group workshop. EFL teachers could run a language-related workshop for EMI teachers based on 5-stage model, if you can remember, such as classroom language used in different stages, language used in presenting visual aids, and textbook analysis focusing on moods and lexical and grammatical features of the text. This model can either be organized by one or integrated in ongoing EMI professional development program. The key word is ongoing, right? It's better than one shot and then stop, okay? I would like to encourage everyone to do ongoing professional development. Let's go back to the questions asked at the beginning of my talk. To answer the first question, my answers goes to policymakers who support teaching and learning in the top-down direction. However, the practitioner level EFL teachers are language specialists in the setting. They can provide English for academic purposes and academic specific purposes, okay, to content teachers and students to reach their learning objectives. The key idea is English for academic purposes and English specific purposes. To address the second question, multilingual informed pedagogy, which embraces the use of English, other languages, and multimodal tools in EMI classrooms to be introduced to support meaning-making content. And the last question, I consider that EFL teachers can take important part in EMI Teacher Professional Development Program to support content teachers to practice EMI effectively. Thank you for your listening. Here is my contact information so we can discuss questions, and I welcome comments at the end of the talk of the all speakers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ban Chakan Samafet, for your very interesting presentation. We may try your 5-stage model in our university. So yeah,
you're welcome.
Later.
So if you need help, I'm very happy to help.
Okay, come back to you later. Thank you. I would like to invite our last keynote speaker, Dr. Steve Disney, Senior Lecturer in English Language and Communication, Plymouth Mahjong University, UK, to present on moving forward in a connected world, opportunities and challenges. Welcome, Dr. Steve Disney. Ngọc,
Steve, audio.
Ngọc, can you check the sound?
Auto-selected. Sorry, it auto-selected the wrong one.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay.
It's okay now, very clearly.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Screen. Okay, can I just check that you can see that screen, please?
Yes, I can see it very well.
So thank you very much, everybody, for coming along, and particularly thank you for the organising committee, the teachers at HUST, and all of the presenters that are coming along to support this conference. I think it's really important that we talk about this type of pedagogical development in this particular context, because obviously the world is on a cusp in education. It's been hastened by the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, and this has forced us as teachers and the students to revise some of our methods in our teaching and learning in the short term. But obviously this wasn't an easy task for everybody, but it did give us a clear insight into what the future looks like. Now, this is why we're here today, really, is to discover and discuss the implications, the challenges, and maybe some of the solutions to some of the situations that we can see unfolding in front of us. And many of the presentations that you'll see today are about using technology in teaching, and the ones that we've just seen are very, along those lines. And this is a fantastic development. Now, my history is in higher education, teaching undergraduate programs in English language medium and with English language courses abroad. So my perspective is that we really need to ask that what else is there apart from technology and language teaching? What else is there that we need to do to prepare the students for Industry 4.0 within our Education 4.0 connected world? So first of all, I'd like to start by asking you to imagine you're on a long journey. That destination of the journey is unknown. The vehicle you're traveling in is unknown. It has lots of unfamiliar technology in it, and it keeps changing shape all the time. Now, our traveling companions are also unknown, and they don't know where they're going either. But you're in a position of responsibility, and somebody turns to you and says, what do we do? What do we do in this situation where we don't know where we're going, and we don't know what we're doing, and we don't know what tools we're supposed to be using? What do you advise them? Well, I'm going to end with my answer to that question, albeit a very simple answer because I only have 20 minutes. But I wanted to start off by asking, well, what does this changing world that the students and us are going to be working in actually look like? Well, it's a world where students are studying towards unknown goals. They're unknown jobs in unknown careers, and they're quite likely to have to change careers 2-3 times in their working lives. It's a world where people are being replaced by automation and where skills that we once learned and valued are very quickly outdated, and we need constant adaptation just to keep up. It's this ever-changing world and how we as a society and how we as individuals deal with it that's the focus of our interest in Education 4.0. Now, I wanted to start off really by just having a look at a little bit of our educational evolution, because I'm not sure that everybody really knows what Education 4.0 actually is. So I'm taking this opportunity to quickly go through this. Now, we've been standing in front of students, filling them with our empty brains for centuries. And we consider this sort of didactic style to be Education 1. Okay? Now, in the 1960s and 1970s, we started using mass media like television and audio video in our teaching as well, but it was still very passive in terms of the learner. And we can consider this start of introducing technology to be Education 2. In the late 1990s, people started to develop what we now call blended learning features using more advanced online and interactive school teaching tools. And this is what we now think of as Education 3. Now, our teaching and assessment were quite separate in the beginning, and teaching looked like this, assessment looked like this, and they were, you know, we taught stuff and then we assessed it, right? Now, assessment in particular was heavily scrutinized and expanded over the years, and the assessment tools became more similar to the teaching tools, and this encouraged more innovation and student engagement. So when we started introducing connected materials into our teaching, in Education 2, we were then able to introduce assessment into the connected materials, but it still sort of was detached from the teaching and learning experience. So assessment was always considered something else. So these are all very highly knowledge focused and all controlled by the teachers. They have limited opportunities for the students to develop their other so-called soft skills that they'll need in the future. And in fact, many people thought the university and the classroom was not the right place for developing soft skills. And I think that particularly in English language teaching classroom, we don't really look at soft skills so much. We're focused more on grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation and listening and writing and all of that type of thing. But actually a lot of this stuff people can do outside of the classroom, and they're paying an awful lot of money for this experience. And I think that going forward, we need to adapt the teaching in all education environments to suit the needs of the student. So the world is changing, and the students' expectations of their education experience are going to change with it. We can't sit back and assume that what's always worked is going to continue to work, or that what we currently do is sufficient to prepare them for the next generation of what lies ahead. So the questions that we want to ask here is, well, I mean, the lockdowns did force lots of technological and pedagogical challenges into the open. And there are many questions that we could ask. The main one is, you know, what is what we've been doing in Education 2.3, 2 and 3 fit for the future? Now, we would argue that no, it's not, and we need to evolve into Education 4 or 4.0. So, what is Education 4.0? Well, to answer this, we need to go back and ask the fundamental question, what is education for? Now, there's lots of debate about what education is for, but I think we could synthesize that by way of a short statement and say, well, what education really is for is to develop people to fulfill the society's needs so that they can achieve their personal needs. So people don't exist in a vacuum, right? And the jobs that they need to do will evolve, but people need to evolve in order to fulfill their personal needs. So we're basically, education is all about creating a suitable workers for the particular society's needs. So what is Education 4.0 then? Well, I want to emphasize the point made in the literature repeatedly that it's not about the tech. It's more about the switch to employment skills and student-centeredness. Now, Salmon says that students will expect learning experiences that reflect and enhance the way we live in the world. Now, I don't know about you, but nobody has ever made me do an exam or a test outside of education. So that doesn't reflect the way that we live at all. So why do we do this in the classroom? So if the key feature in education is to prepare our students for the life they want or are likely to have, increasingly this involves higher levels of interactive skills. The so-called soft skills are critical, especially in international collaboration. That awareness and that ability to reflect and change according to the environment that you're in as well. Now, if this is what education is for, then Education 4.0 needs to be in line with this, and our teaching and assessment practices need to evolve. If the most important skill is soft skills, surely that's what we should be assessing. So according to the World Economic Forum, these are the top skills that people will need high levels of competency in going forward. So note that these are all people and process skills, not knowledge and technology skills. Of course, they still need the knowledge and they still need the ability to use the technology, okay? But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the additional stuff that we sometimes forget in our teaching. So I'd also like to ask, well, where does this skill set say that the students need the ability to do exams? Where does it say they need to work alone on a generic task that hundreds have done before them, or go to a classroom all day, every day, and take in 3 hours of a teacher talking at a large group? But that's what Education 2.0 does. Education 3.0 added learning environments and some apps, but it didn't do anything to integrate activities with the students' expected needs on this unknown journey through life. The skills list on the previous slide is about people and process skills. If we don't educate them in these skills, then we're not fully preparing them for their careers and their lives. So 4.0 thinking in teaching and learning makes the process the point, not the end product. In fact, the student themselves is the product, and not the essay and the exam paper that they're sitting. I hope that all makes sense. In sum, then, teaching and assessment practices do need to evolve. The students need to be able to work together collaboratively. They need to be able to quickly and effectively make changes to their working practices, and they need to be able to do this in a self-reliant way. They need to become learner workers in order to be able to adapt and change according to the changing social needs. I mean, try and imagine the world these 18, 19-year-olds are going to be living in 20, 30 years. It's pretty impossible to do that, but we have to prepare them for those kind of situations, 3, 5 different careers. So as teachers, we have to ask, what do we need to change in our teaching and learning model to support this new world order, and how do we need to deliver it in a way that best prepares the individual student for the world in which they live? So the answer to that, or at least one set of answers to that, has been proposed by people like Peter Fisk. This is Peter's website front page, and there's a lot of sections on there that I would encourage people to go and have a look at, peterfisk.com. I want to mention some of the core principles here, and that were also on the video that we saw earlier on, particularly connected to personalization and flexible delivery. So the main idea is that the needs of Industry 4.0 should be central to our course design. Whatever that course happens to be, we have to think from the top down, really. We have to say, well, look, the end goal is this with these needs. How do we achieve these needs in our course design? Some of that will involve, obviously, knowledge, learning and teaching and learning. But again, we need to do this in a way that reflects the skills and the skill sets that the students need. And a lot of that is about self-reliance. A lot of the other stuff is about personalization. So one of the ways then in which we need to do change is to focus on providing opportunities to learn rather than just teaching. It's about moving from spoon feeding and giving students knowledge to making students want to learn in a more independent way, and then giving them opportunities to use that knowledge. Now, in English language teaching, we've been doing that for a lot longer, I think, than in higher education, because we use small classes, and it is easier in small classes. So what we really want to do then is to try to train the students to inquire about the world and what they're doing, and to upskill themselves. So then we need to be teaching them the tools to do this, rather than just expecting them to get everything they need from the classroom. And we need to do it in a way, and I'm thinking higher education here, we need to do it in a way that we're not always assessing them on everything that we teach them. I mean, we've known that for quite a long time. Just because we teach something doesn't mean we assess them on it. Okay, that's actually pretty impossible for most of the point. So Education 4.0 doesn't mean just digital enhancements. It's broader than that. It involves a different set of assumptions about education and the purpose of education. As I've been saying, these assumptions logically lead to different teaching methods. And these different teaching methods logically lead to different outcomes. So if we teach students differently, then that will act as a model for their learning, and their learning will be more personalized and more self-reliant. And then we end up automatically creating these learner workers that we need going forward. So in Education 4.0, the answer is we need more flexibility in the way that we deliver courses and more self-efficacy development in learning. Students need the freedom to aspire to and achieve their varied personal goals and to design their own future selves. And in order to do that, we need to create their courses in a way that encourages them to be more individual. So a big part of this process is personalization. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we need to get this balance of connected and in-person experiences. And I think Wayne mentioned earlier on about getting students to do stuff in advance of the class. And this is a classic, what we call flipped classroom approach that was started a number of years ago now. And the idea is that the in-person sessions are more focused on the student and the skill set they need to be successful. Yes, we need to provide knowledge, but it needs the student to understand their own needs and to take responsibility for developing them from those opportunities that we provide them. So in a sort of flipped classroom, the idea is the student learns the basics in their own time, at their own speed. If it's by video, then the student can watch it over and over again, and they don't get that opportunity in a classroom. So if we need to actually impart knowledge, it's much better for the students to do it outside the class, then come to the class feeling confident, feeling that they already know stuff, and then have that opportunity to use it. And this works for an English language classroom as well. We have to be organized and set the homework, and the student has to be organized and actually take personal control and do the work. But when the students all come and they're all ready, they know this vocabulary because they've looked it up, then our role in the classroom is to give them the opportunities to use that and to build on that knowledge. Now, again, coming from a higher education perspective, definitely, we have lots of challenges in assessment going forward in a 4.0 world. Now, some of this involves the amount of time it takes to mark things, whether or not what we're assessing the students on is adequate to the task. We also have problems with cheating, which I'll come back to later. And obviously, our main concern is alignment with expected standards and norms. I've got a couple of things that I wanted to say about assessment. But most of these problems can be quite easily overcome if we change what we think assessment is for. Now, to go back to my original slide here, so we ended at Education 3.0 with this disconnect between assessment and teaching. And one of the things that we're finding in going forward in Education 4 is that actually why not make assessment part of the teaching? Why not make it more informal and continual? And why not make it more about what the students can demonstrate they can do as opposed to what they know? Now, this is what happens in the real world. They're constantly assessed in the world of work on what they can do, not on what they know. So why does education insist on assessing what they know instead of what they can do? We need a massive shift, a mindset shift. Now, this requires imagination from educators and from educational institutions going forward. And I wouldn't suggest that all courses all do their assessment like this, but we need significant amounts of this, and we need to carefully choose what we do, how we assess it, and where we assess it. So we want to speak more about evaluation rather than examination, and try to encourage students to be creators of their own content. Now, this reflects the real world, and they get judged on how they've created that content rather than reproducing knowledge that we already know, that they already know, right? So some of the challenges in moving forward, well, if you look at this list, what you'll probably see, and the main idea here is that, well, our teachers, universities, university management, are they really up for this change? Or are people just going to say, well, yeah, great idea, someone should do this, and then we just carry on as we always have and hope that it works? Personally, I think this would be a bit of a shame, and it would be a shame to miss this opportunity to improve what we do. I said I'd come back to cheating. Well, I think that to avoid cheating, we have different ways of doing this that have evolved over the years, according to Education 1, 2, and 3. But cheating is only possible if we're assessing knowledge. If we're assessing ability, then the students can't really cheat. Okay? If we assess personalized and practical and creative tasks, this is Education 4.0, and the students can't cheat with this because they're demonstrating to it live. Apologies for a slight overrun. I'm finishing now. So what we want to do then is carefully choose which elements of a course suit a 4.0 approach and which suit a more traditional approach. This is the model for student 4.0. It needs us as teachers to be teacher 4.0. And we need institutions and management 4.0 to accept that these changes are necessary going forward. We can't do this on our own. So to return to my opening point about imagining this unknown journey with an unknown destination, with unknown companions who you don't know, and someone asks you, well, what should we do? Well, my advice as a seasoned traveler is to take one step at a time, do the best you can, expect the unexpected, and enjoy the ride. So from an Education 4.0 world, my advice is similar. Think globally, but act locally. By that, I mean the global 4.0 skills need to be there in the classroom, informing all of our activities. Maybe try one new small thing a week. Do your best with it, but kind of expect it to go wrong. And overall, enjoy the challenge of shaping the future. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you found this a useful introduction into some of the ideas behind Education 4.0 in a changing world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Disney, for very interesting and very thought-provoking and condensed presentation. I have learned a lot of genius ideas from your presentations about our Education 4.0. And also a lot of questions remain for us as teachers, right? About how to do assessment without examinations, and how to provide opportunities for students to give them the chance to be content creator and so on. Okay, now is our Q&A session. Please type your questions on the meeting chat, and also please put the name of the speaker you want to ask for. I have received quite a lot of questions. So the first questions coming from Ms. Ha Nguyen for Associate Professor Wayne Gerling. Dr. Wayne Gerling, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, the question is, as you play a song, the lyric and economic notes might appear too quickly for the students to notice and fully understand. How do you deal with this?
Look, that's a great question. So you have a couple of options. The first option is pretty much similar to what you have when you read a transcript of a radio interview. So what you can do is actually print out the lyrics and the commentary in advance so that the students have a hard copy of it. The other option is because the material is presented in video format, the students can always rewatch it at their own leisure after the class. So I think both of those options provide a viable way of ensuring that the students don't suffer from any information deficit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hope that answered your question, Ms. Ha. And I have received one more question from Ms. Lin Kumle for Dr. Banchakan Samarfet. Your question is, you mentioned the use of L1 and English interchangeably to overcome the challenge.
Chúng ta có thể sử dụng ngôn ngữ mẹ đẻ trong các cái giờ giảng dạy chuyên ngành bằng tiếng Anh. Vậy thì tôi cũng muốn hỏi rằng là có phải là chúng ta cứ chuyển ngữ từ tiếng mẹ đẻ và tiếng Anh không ạ? Vâng ạ, câu hỏi này rất là thú vị. Đó là thực ra đó là một cái vấn đề, đó là hai cái từ mà chị dùng, translanguaging và code switching, nó đều là như vậy. Tức là chúng ta sẽ chuyển ngữ giữa hai cái ngôn
concept. I mean translanguaging. Translanguaging is the use of all available language resources and modalities such as, you know, PowerPoint presentation and other materials. And yeah, it's translanguaging because we pretty much focus on content rather than socializing. For code switching, you know, the use of two languages is playing the role as, you know, for socializing. But when it comes to teaching content, it's pretty much for translanguaging, because translanguaging is first derived from classrooms, you know, but for translanguaging, the original one is from on the street. You know, people use two languages and more for socializing. But for translanguaging, we pretty much blur the name of the language, but we kind of think about all available linguistics resources. You know, we don't say English, we don't think about Thai or Vietnamese, but we call these one all available language resources to teach content. Yeah, and we pretty much rely on, you know, how we use all these kind of resources to teach the students.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. Yeah, one more question for Dr. Steve Disney. Oh, I think 3 questions from the same person. So Ms. Hackdow asks you the question number 1. In such countries as Vietnam, education 1.0 and 4.0 have existed. Can you suggest the way to balance these models so that we can move forward to the international standard of education while maintaining the equity and equality in education to all of learners?
Yeah, and I think that that's a really good question, and it's the question on everybody's lips, which is kind of why I said I ended the presentation saying that what we need to do is we need to choose carefully the elements of a course, and that includes assessment techniques that more suit a traditional approach and that more suit the needs of the student going forward. What we can't do, I think, is just say, well, you know, all elements of a course should be one thing or the other. I think that I would be really worried if we were teaching medical students, you know, and we weren't examining their absolute knowledge, right? Do you know what I mean? But I think that when it comes to people who are learning for things like English language teaching and translation, and the people that you know, that I'm dealing with, who are going off into management and maybe other areas in tourism and this type of thing, I mean, they don't need that kind of knowledge testing at all, you know, because it's not about knowledge for them. It's about, mostly it's about skills, right?
Exactly.
So it depends very much on what course you're taking as to as to how much you need to integrate this. But again, I don't want to be faced with a medical student that doesn't have really good, well-honed people skills. Because going forward, you know, looking backward, that was the main criticism, and that's where all of the complaints come from in medicine. It's not from malpractice because they got something wrong. It's because their manner is terrible, you know. And I think the international collaborations and this type of thing with the massive movements of people, we need these skills embedded in programs. And like I say, I think that, you know, saying that, well, a traditional approach is acceptable for some elements of a course shouldn't be an example, shouldn't be an opportunity for people to go, well, my particular module or my particular course suits a traditional approach, so I'm not doing anything. You know, you can still integrate certain elements of 4.0 thinking and into your teaching and learning. And I think that students always appreciate the personalization of the experience. They always, like Wayne was just saying about the ability to pre-use materials and then post-use materials is a massive change. It's a bit 3.0 in university anyway, because we record everything now so students can go back and see it. And again, it's that passive learning thing that's 3.0 and 2.0. To make it more interactive, well, you know, that revolves around the imagination of the individual teacher and the limitations of their program. I'm sorry if that's not terribly helpful, but you know, it's quite a large question, and without knowing the individual, you know, courses, then it's difficult to answer specifically. But the idea is we do what we can to orient towards 4.0 and industry 4.0 needs, and we try to maintain standards along the way. We do the best.
Okay, thank you. I know that's a very large question, and your answer is very insightful anyway. Thank you. I think Ms. Hackdow, can you unmute your microphone and ask the question number 3 to Dr. Steve Disney? Ms. Hackdow, are you there? Ms. Hackdow, are you there? Are you in the room? Can you unmute your microphone and ask the question? Yeah, maybe some technical problems, so I have to read her question again. The questions for Dr. Steve Disney. One of the principles of education 4.0 mentioned in your presentation is explored, not examined. So without examination, how can educators evaluate learners' achievement of learning outcomes and programs?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I mean, teachers are always obsessed with assessment, right? So you kind of expect teachers to ask questions about assessment. And I think that the point is that when I talk about designing a course with 4.0 needs in place, that starts with learning outcomes, okay? And so what we have to do is we have to revise what we think of as learning outcomes, right? And then we can design assessments that directed towards those learning outcomes, because that's what we do anyway. Now, if we have learning outcomes that ask the students to demonstrate particular knowledge, then we have to assess them. We have to examine them on that. But if we actually write learning outcomes, and I'm thinking again, university level, if we write learning outcomes that are about demonstrating what the students can do and their abilities at a more general level, okay, then that gives us far more flexibility within our assessment practices. Okay. Now, when we talk about the actual process of evaluation, this can be peer evaluation, right? This is quite a big move at the moment, and quite a lot of people are experimenting. I wouldn't want a whole program done like this, but some elements of assessment can be done by peers, right? So for example, in an English language classroom or in a university setting where students, for example, every university these days has employability modules, right? But certainly with mine, historically, the people running those modules have always wanted to do written assignments of this, that, and the other. But actually, why can't we have an employability module that has a kind of mock interview as the assessment, and that interview panel is made up of students who evaluate the performance. Okay. And that's more about evaluation. That's more about that's making it like real world rather than anything else. Particularly with the growth in presentations. I mean, it's easy for people to be formulaic with presentations, and I think we need to be really careful with that. But then again, you can evaluate the students on their creativity and their avoidance of formulaic elements. And I think that we need to do that for things like presentations as well. Again, without subject-specific examples, it's difficult to take that, and be any more specific than that. But I think that it starts at the bottom. It starts with learning outcomes, and then we write learning outcomes, and then we design assessments around those. We always do. And if we want to test their ability, not their knowledge, then it starts with learning outcome writing. Hope that helps. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, very nice ideas, right? It's like a backward design, right? The idea is about starting from our outcome, then we change with.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's what we're saying in Education 4.0 is that we start with the idea that Industry 4.0 needs certain skill sets to be in place. And then we work backwards from those and design the course from that point upwards. And that means re-examining learning outcomes. And then that will inevitably force a change in assessment and teaching practices.
Okay.
In certain areas.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Dr. Steve Disney. I have received one question from Ling Lei. I'm not sure, Miss or Mrs. The question is for Professor Wayne. Should teachers keep a tight control over the pop culture materials used, or do you think students can pick their own materials and try to draw the connection between the materials and the concepts to be taught?
Excellent question. I deal with this every semester. Because I was dealing with a really strict 20-minute limit, I had to cut out a lot of good stuff from the presentation. So one thing I do every semester is I run a pop culture project. So the students come up with a new idea of pop culture, last 2 or 3 years, and it can be English language or foreign language. If it's foreign language, they have to add in English subtitles. And they submit this clip. And what I do is, obviously, it gets graded. We use a bit of peer review grading as well. And just 5 or 10% of those clips make it into my course in the following semester. So they have free range to choose what they want, because I don't think it would be appropriate for me to say to the students, well, this is my music taste and these are the TV shows I like, so why don't you do that? It's free range. And I get so many awesome ideas. I'd never listened to K-pop up until of years ago, but my students do. So now I do. And I've written an article about it. So you've got to give students free range. You've got to allow them to express themselves creatively. And some of the clips aren't going to be very good. That's fine, but you don't have to use them. And some of the clips may be inappropriate. That's fine. I don't have to use them. So I might get 50 to 100 ideas per semester for my students. 5 to 10 might make it into my classroom library for the following semester. And it's fantastic. So I managed to keep my course relevant and contemporary by drawing on my students' creativity. And that's all you can ask as a teacher in life. And I think that cuts across all disciplines.
Fantastic. Yeah, we learn from that. I have received one question from Heighten. Heighten, are you there? Can you say aloud your question to Dr. Banchakam Samarphet? Miss Nguyễn Thị Hải Anh, are you there? Oh yeah, I will read the question on her behalf. Can you explain more about the main purposes for which Thai language is often used in the classroom?
All right, so what I found from my research field, Thai plays a significant role in when the teachers teach academic content, and when they teach in English, but unfortunately the student couldn't understand the key concepts. So then Thai language play the main role here, because the EMI teachers reflected that it doesn't matter if they can use English for 100%, but the student cannot understand their content. It's 0 point for, education and learning is waste of time. But when the Thai language play roles in the input stage, and the student can, understand the key concept very well. And for that one, and when the teachers want to check the student's comprehension, and again, they allowed the student to use English, I have to say, unfortunately, the teacher cannot check appropriate comprehensions because of, the language barrier. So the teacher decided that perhaps the student can use Thai language to express what they learned, what they can comprehend in the classroom through their writing, through their speaking, and then the teacher can check the student understanding. At the end, it's okay to speak Thai or to use Thai in both input and output stages. Yeah. Am I answer your question?
I think so. Yes, thank you. One more question for you, still about the new role of ESL teachers in EMI courses. So can you elaborate on the new role of ESL teachers in EMI courses, especially in association with collaboration with content teachers?
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that one. It's a good one. So at first I thought, okay, maybe EFL teachers and content teachers can perform in the class together, work together, but it's the ideal, it's utopia. We cannot do that one because first, it's a waste of money, waste of time, and waste of the human resources. And for in practice, in reality, EFL teachers like us, can support, can be the mentor to support in terms of the language. When the teacher, when EFL teacher, when EMI teacher cannot or don't sure about how to use English in presenting new concepts, so we can, introduce them a very useful language expressions, how to express the main idea or the key concept, or when the student want to express their understanding in English, what the language patterns or the language expressions that they can use. Here we come. This is the area, the room of us, to help the students in order to gain enough, I can say enough English skills to perform their learning as well. And again, the role, we can be the mentor in terms of how to teach EMI. Take a look at my teaching models, because perhaps EMI teachers, doesn't know about how to teach. And then we can introduce them 5 stages of teaching models for them. Step by step, it's like scaffolding to help the teachers, of course, and then help the students to learn step by step. At the end, they can reach the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I believe your 5-stage teaching model will help, and we may look closely at the model later. And the audience, if you want, you can read more about Dr. Bachakan's model then. One question for Professor Wayne from Fillmore Murillo. Considering that pop cultures, for example, music tends to be ephemeral, how do you deal with it? And how often do you change the materials you use in your lessons?
That's another excellent question. Because I use pop culture projects in class, I outsource all of that really tough work to my students. I let them come up with the creative ideas. I have 1,500 students per semester. So if 150 do an extra credit project and 10% of those clips are fantastic, I've got 15 amazing clips to introduce into my classroom the following semester. The basic rule of thumb is when I play music in class or TV or film clips, I'm not playing stuff that I personally like. I'm playing stuff that's relevant to my students. And that's the key, because you can't impose your cultural tastes on your students. They are best placed to tell me what they like. So I'm basically just a medium through which it flows. So extra credit, pop culture assignments keep me relevant. Plus, I publish in this area as well. So I love the challenge of keeping my course up to date. So if any of the speakers or guests at this conference have any clips I can use in my teaching in future, please forward them on.
Yeah, and I know that teachers will work, have to work harder, right? Like you say. One question for Dr. Steve Disney from Miss Ming Chiang. How to effectively bridge learning by technology and by lessons in physical classroom is an emerging question among many ESL teachers, for example, in blended learning. So what should teachers do to promote the connection between these two channels? Dr. Steve Disney?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question? I'm not sure I followed it.
Yeah, it's quite a long question. So the question is how to effectively bridge learning by technology and by lessons in physical classrooms is an emerging question among many ESL teachers, for example, in blended learning. So what should teachers do to promote the connection between these two channels?
Yeah, I think that the idea that I was trying to say was that it's for 4.0 thinking. I mean, blended learning is 3.0 thinking, and it treats the students passively still, right? Mm. And as consumers of our wisdom in one way or another, right? And I think that if we're going to have students in the classroom, the point really of being in the classroom is that it's personal space. Why would we want to even massively bring technology into the classroom, right? Why would you want to do that? Why not focus on the skills, the people end of this, the personalization, the students doing things in the classrooms, and the technology, the blended learning material mostly, can mostly sit outside of that. And it acts, as Wayne was saying earlier on, and the other speakers. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Banchakan?
Banchakan.
Sorry. And I think that a lot of the bridging the gap is more about the students using the technology for their pre-class activities, their post-class activities. And I think trying to use too much technology in the classroom is actually against, in a way, against the principles of personalization of the experience, right? Yes, there's certain elements of this. Obviously, particularly if you're asking students to be creative, they can be creative using the technology in the classroom. If that's part of that particular activity, then why not? Why shouldn't they do something that uses the technology? But that would probably be quite specific to those students. And again, I think that in ESL teaching, I haven't been in an ESL classroom for some time. Oh, something happened. We okay?
No problem. Yes, everything okay.
Okay. So I haven't been in an ESL classroom for some time. But again, my experience of being in a particularly English language classroom was that they weren't there for me to use technology. They were there for me as me, right? And I think if you want to use technology in the classroom, you can, because there's loads of apps out there. You can do pop quizzes with them using Socrative. You can do idea and task generation with things like menti.com, which is one of the things I had to cut from my presentation. Actually, I was going to get you guys to do one to show you how that worked in case it didn't work. And in that way, if you're using tools like that for brainstorming ideas, then that is in using 4.0 because the students are being creative, they're creating their own content, rather than me standing in front of the class telling them we're doing this, or students having to say words about a particular concept to start a class, or as a kind of brainstorming session. Actually, they can do it using the tech. Really, I think it depends on the goal that you're trying to achieve. I'm sorry, again, the answer's probably not as precise as you would have liked. But it depends what your outcome is. I would personally, I would keep the technology in the classroom to specific tasks. I wouldn't try to integrate it that much. I would send the students outside for a lot of the technological elements of going forward. So anything else I can say on that? If you have particular goals within a particular class, within a particular topic, then you know, use the technology, but use apps. But you know, going forward, it's more about people. It's more about people's skills. More about giving students the opportunity to develop and build on the technology they're using outside the classroom, in my view.
Yeah, thank you for your effort to answer the question. It seems to be hard not to crack question. The next questions for Associate Professor Wayne Gerling. Are you there, Professor Wayne?
Sorry, yes, I am.
Yeah, the question is, how did you spot out a song in another culture that might demonstrate the economic concept you want to introduce?
Oh, I heavily rely on students. When it comes to foreign languages, I only have German. So I can find material in German language very easily. Other foreign languages, I'm relying on my students. So I've got a database of about 60 foreign language clips from 22 different languages.
Really?
And those come from my students. In fact, the Vietnamese song, the Den featuring Min Chill, comes from my Vietnamese TA who might actually be in this audience as I talk at the moment. So I rely on my students and occasionally my TAs who have foreign language as their main language, and I get the ideas from them.
Thank you. Yeah. One more question for Dr. Ban Chakan. If ESL teachers have little knowledge of the academic subject, are they a great help to EMI teachers?
Yes, of course. That's the nature. If you kind of know both content and language, content teacher will lose their job, you know. So it's for you to help them is that you can kind of help them how to analyze the language in the text and help the student as well. From you as an English specialist in the context, you can help them how to analyze the mood and the genre used in the text. And if you can help them in terms of these two activities, analyzing moves and genre used in that particular discipline or areas of knowledge, that is very helpful because I believe that areas of knowledge, you know, have their own genre and moves to present the new knowledge in there. For you, if you help them how to get kind of vocabulary in there in terms of, you know, both everyday language and academic language to understand the sense of academic knowledge, that will be a very good one. I say everyday language because everyday language is very useful for both EMI teachers and the students to interact in the classroom. Yes, EMI is the academic classroom, academic teaching and learning as well, but we can use everyday language like the language on the street, in the market like this, to, you know, help them to understand and construct the knowledge in there. And because the student and the teachers, they don't know much about the academic language use, right? And everyday language here play a very significant role to shape understanding and to perform the student understanding as well. And I think this one you can help them.
Thank you. Relating to teachers, there's one question for you from Ms. Dương Thúy Hương. What do you think if ESL, ESP teachers are content teachers from major faculties, not language teachers? How can you take advantage of this?
That will be very perfect. Because of what? If we, as the EFL teachers, we know English language, but we don't know their disciplines. We don't know their mathematics knowledge or engineering concept. We don't know that one, right? But we know the English language here. But from the EMI's teacher side, They know just only, kind of knowledge repertoire of, for example, mathematics, but perhaps they don't know much about language. Here we come. If that EMI teachers know two things, content and language, and that will be very perfect for delivery content knowledge in EMI classroom, but it's quite rare, I have to say. Yeah, it's quite rare.
Yes.
And it requires a lot of training to reach that particular goal.
True. Yeah, it's to do with knowledge also, right? Thank you. The next questions for Miss Dr. Steve Disney. Among 5 top skills you mentioned in your presentation, I can't see communication skill. So do you think this skill should be added to top 5 skills?
I'm trying to remember the specific wording on that specific slide. I think that
it's about complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity,
and
collaboration, but no communication skill.
Yeah, and I think that idea that around collaboration is in communication skills are embedded in that. That's what that kind of means. You can't collaborate particularly without good communication skills. And I think that communication skills as a term is probably a little bit too generic. In terms of that, it needs to be, it's okay, communication skills to do what? And I think that the list from the World Economic Forum had 10 items on it. I condensed that down to the top 5 really, for our purposes, to keep it short. But that notion that the collaboration embeds the notion of communication skills to a specific purpose. There are other elements within the whole list that also have communication as an element, as an element. For example, people managing skills. That's all about communication as well. So communication skills is kind of like a superordinate term, and I think they wanted to avoid that. So they chopped it down to what specific skills are needed, and that's skills in collaboration, people management, and this type of stuff. And that's why that doesn't appear as a single item.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is the last question we received from Fillmore Murillo. The questions for Professor Bankat Chakan. How does teacher's accent influence EMI?
So, thank you very much for this question. I have to say, I have no idea on this one because it's beyond my research field. So I have to say this one first because, I'm not confident to answer this one. But if you ask me for my personal opinion, I can say, I don't think it's better for this one, right? We need to embrace multilingual society and accept all variety of English or global Englishes here. We have to accept it. And in order to have the ability of English, we have to spend so much time, money, effort, and so many years to get at our level. But for the accent, the keyword is accent, right? I think it's not a big deal at all. If the teachers and the students can get familiar with each other very well, they can kind of, their ears will kind of automatically readjust by, can understand the teacher's language very well. I think, it will take time. To understand.
Yeah. We can get our ears acquainted with the accent, right? And gradually we can get used to that accent. Thank you very much, the 3 keynote speakers, for your time and valuable contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, may I thank you very much for your active participation in this plenary session of the conference. I hope you enjoyed the session. And now it's time we move to the next sessions. But before that, we expect to have a photo with you again, with the keynote speakers, with distinguished guests, with participants, could you please again turn on your camera and we have a photo together before we leave this room? Linh, are you ready, Linh? Okay, so I will count from 1, 2, 3, and then 3 times. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Done, Linh? Okay, one more.
Actually, I'm taking the photo shoot. So can you slow it down a little bit? Thank you.
Okay.
That's
1, 2, 3. Cheese.
Just a second. Lovely.
Okay, one more.
Yes, one more.
Because we have so many audience, so we need to turn on the pages for photos.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We have so many people here.
Okay,
So
1,
yes.
2, 3.
Yes, I can see so many audiences are not turning on their cameras. So guys, you turn on your camera so I can see your faces.
So the last shot.
Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, lovely.
Do you think that we should take one photo for the 3 keynote speakers?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
So I will turn off my camera, right? So there should be only 3 keynote speakers to turn on their camera. Is that right, Hoa?
Yes. That would be okay.
Okay. So let's take a photo for the 3 keynote speakers.
Yes.
Steve Disney, Dr. Steve, Professor Wayne, and Dr. Bashar Khan, can you turn on your camera?
Once one.
Second.
Do you see them, Hoa?
Yes, I can see them with other audience participants as well.
So you can put 3 of them on. Oh, you can put them on spotlight.
You can only spotlight 1 at a time.
Oh.
Miss
Take a long time to get rid of all the other photos.
Miss Fine, can you put them on spotlight because I can't see my permission to put them on
spotlight.
Spotlight.
I've at spotlight, yes. Right? So yeah, already Professor Wayne. Already one more. Let me see, find Dr. Steve.
Oh, Mr. Banchakan, why do you?
Oh yeah, I can see him. Okay, now you can see 3 of them already, right?
Actually not yet. Other participants.
Okay,
yes, I already taken the photos of the 3 keynote speakers.
Okay, good, great.
That's
yeah,
right.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again for joining with us for our very fruitful presentations and conference plenary session today. It's time we move to the other 3 parallel sessions. And for those who register for the first parallel session, please stay in this room. And the others, please move following the links we've pasted on the meeting chat. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much again, our keynote speakers, our distinguished guests, our participants, ladies and gentlemen, and our colleagues. Have a big clap on our success of great success of our plenary session. We wish you all good health, success, and happiness. Goodbye, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.